Time. Well, Fannie Willis is back in the news, and y'all know if Fannie Willis is in the news, we're going to cover it here. As someone who's right here in Fulton County and paid Nathan Wade over $500,000, I don't want to think about it. We're going to talk about what's going on with Fannie Willis. Well, yesterday, there's supposed to be a hearing that Fannie Willis was going to show up for and testify. Fannie Willis said, hey guys, I can't make it. I got a dentist appointment and I won't be there. Then we find out that that everything was going to happen during this Senate hearing was moved or canceled, or we don't know what's going on. We're going to get into the details here shortly, but we're also going to find out a deadline that's coming up today. And actually 13 minutes ago, the deadline hit for them to find a new prosecutor for this election interference case, the case that Fani Willis got kicked off of. So let's see what's going on here. And I'm actually going to check live to see if we have any updates on if they were able to assign a new prosecutor to this case. I don't think they will.
Today is the deadline to appoint a new special prosecutor to take over Georgia's election interference case. This case has been in limbo for nearly a year since District Attorney Fani Willis was removed as prosecutor. Ariana Manise live this morning at the Fulton County Courthouse. And Ariana, this case has really been at a standstill for more than a year now, but today we could see some forward-moving action here.
Yeah, possibly. And that's what we'll be watching. As the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, they have until noon today. That's the deadline set by a Fulton County judge to select a new prosecutor to take over this case. Now, the reason they have to pick a new attorney is because District Attorney Fani Willis was disqualified from moving this case forward by the Georgia Court of Appeals after defense attorneys revealed her romantic relationship with the former special prosecutor Nathan Wade. Then in September, the state Supreme Court effectively affirmed that disqualification decision. The case was then handed over to the Prosecuting Attorneys Council to appoint a new attorney to take over this case where President Trump and 18 others were charged with interfering with Georgia's 2020 presidential election results. Now, the group was granted more time to find a prosecutor by the Fulton County judge after the executive director cited how difficult it was to find a new attorney, citing how complex this case is and the caseload that the Attorneys Council already has, 20 cases that they have to find other prosecutors for. Now, if and when they do find a new outside counsel, that person has three decisions to make. They can either continue this case, move it forward as is, move forward with only certain charges, or dismiss this case entirely. Meanwhile, Willis was expected to testify before the state Senate committee investigating her use of public funds involving this case. And it just shows you how this case has remained at the forefront on multiple fronts. Now, that decision is expected to come down by noon. We'll bring you the latest if and when an attorney is selected, Jonathan.
Yeah, it will certainly be one to watch. So, Ariana, who exactly is responsible for picking this new special prosecutor?
Well, the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia will select that outside counsel. He says the worst case, the last resort, is the Attorneys Council taking on and prosecuting this case themselves, but they said that is the last resort as they already have a heavy caseload.
Yeah,
back
but
to you.
You got to wonder if anyone else will want to take on the case. Some big questions ahead. Ariana, thank you so much.
Shout out to Ariana and 11 Alive News. Well, guys, I just ruined my own segment because we have breaking news here. It looks like they have chosen a new prosecutor for this case. Yes. Oh, and the drama gets interesting because not only did within the last 10 minutes they choose a prosecutor, but guess who the prosecutor is? Check this out. Shout out to ABC News for this article. New prosecutor chosen in the Georgia 2020 election interference case against Trump and others. Pete Skadakis. Pete S., who was leading the search, named himself to the position. A new prosecutor has been selected to take over the Fulton County, Georgia election interference case against President Donald Trump and others after District Attorney Fani Willis' disqualification. Oh, this is crazy. In a statement on Friday, the director of the agency tasked with finding the replacement said he has chosen someone new, himself. Pete S., the executive director of the Prosecuting Attorneys Council of Georgia, said he chose himself to take over the case after he was unable to find someone else to accept the job. You think? This thing's going to get dismissed. Several prosecutors were contacted, and while all were respectful and professional, each declined the appointment, he said in a statement. The decision to assume responsibility from this matter was reached only after careful and deliberate consideration. Trump and 18 others pled not guilty in August of 2023 to all charges in a sweeping racketeering indictment for alleged efforts to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election in the state of Georgia. The charges, which were brought following Trump's January 2nd, 2021 phone call in which he asked Georgia Secretary of State Brad R. to find the votes needed to win the state, alleged that the defendants solicited state leaders throughout the country, harassed and misled a Georgia election worker, and pushed phony claims that the election was stolen, all in effort for Trump to remain in power despite his election loss. The selection of the new prosecutor fell to the Attorney's Council after Georgia Supreme Court in September declined to take up Willis's appeal for her removal from the case over her relationship with one prosecutor on this case we know as Nathan Wade. Pete was facing a November 14th deadline to appoint someone new, or the case would face dismissal, according to an order from the Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee. Pete said he did not believe McAfee dismissing the case because of the missed deadline would be the right course of action. In a statement, Trump's attorney in the case, Steve Sadow, said, "This politically charged prosecution has come to an end. We remain confident that a fair and impartial review will lead to a dismissal of the case against President Trump, and I agree with Steve." Pete wrote in a statement that he had not had sufficient time to complete a review of the case files, saying he received 101 boxes of documents from the DA's office in late October and an 8 terabyte hard drive of case files just last week. Pete, let it go, man. Let it go. I mean, we're going to talk about a political play here in a second. He said that by appointing himself to the case, he can complete a comprehensive review and make an informed decision regarding how best to proceed with the case, whose future is still up in the air. My only objective is to ensure that this case is handled properly, fairly, and with full transparency, discharging my duties without fear, favor, or affection. Pete, are you going to be running for DA soon? I'm calling this one. Trump this week issued a sweeping pardon to all defendants in the Georgia election case and all other cases involving alleged 2020 fake elector plots, although the act was largely symbolic as Trump does not have the ability to pardon state charges. Last year, Pete took over the investigation into one of the defendants in the case, Burt Jones, after Willis was initially disqualified from investigating him. Pete also investigated accusations that Jones had acted as a fake elector for Trump before deciding not to bring criminal charges against him because Jones and his determination did not act with criminal intent. We see how this is gonna go, and let's talk about the political play here. Shout out to Pete. Pete has got his own back. Let me tell you the reason why I think Pete took this. Pete is going to review this. He's going to look at it. And he's going to get a phone call from somebody, I'm sure, at some point. Or let's not even go that far. He's going to look at it and he's going to say, you know, I looked at this case and I reviewed it thoroughly with discretion. And I see here that there was no wrongdoing. And what did he say at the end in the initial case against Mr. Jones? He said, I believe that the president did not act with criminal intent. Therefore, this case is dismissed. So, hey, shout out to Pete, man. Having his own back. I know what you're doing, Pete. Is Pete going to run for DA soon? Oh my gosh, this is crazy. Well, again, with that being said, we still have some Fani Willis news, even with that breaking news. In addition to that, as I mentioned, Fani Willis said oh yeah, I know I told y'all I was going to testify about what was going on with the Georgia project, but I decided that's not going to happen. And that may be one of the reasons that the Senate committee did not meet yesterday. Let's go ahead and get into this from News 12.
New today, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis will not be appearing before the state Senate committee investigating the indictment of President Trump. Instead, the committee will hear from the executive secretary for the State Ethics Commission, David Amati. The hearing is focused on the new Georgia project organized by former lawmaker Stacey Abrams. For months, lawmakers have been attempting to force Willis to testify as they focus on her finances, hiring practices, and relationship with Nathan Wade. Wade was the top prosecutor on the election indictment against Trump and his allies on the alleged attempt to overturn the 2020 election results. Willis will now testify either December 17th or 18th.
Okay, so now let's see what's going on here with this. Shout out to Atlanta News First. They said Fulton County DA Fani Willis not on the Senate committee's Thursday agenda. And that Senate committee actually got moved for some reason. After initially agreeing to testify before a state Senate committee investigation on her historic indictment of Donald Trump, Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis apparently will not be appearing before the committee on Thursday. Shocker. Instead, the agenda for the Senate Committee on Investigations indicate its members, the majority of whom are running for higher office in Georgia's nationally watched 2026 midterms, will hear from David Amati, the executive secretary of the State Ethics Committee. On Thursday, State Senator Bill Cowsert of Athens, who chairs the committee, said that Willis's attorney had a conflict with the November 13, 2025 hearing. He said Willis will testify either on December 17th or December 18th. Stop the cap. Yeah, we'll see. Thursday's hearing focused on the now defunct New Georgia Project, an organization founded by former Democratic state lawmaker Stacey Abrams, who unsuccessfully ran for governor in 2018 and 2022. Thank God. For months, GOP lawmakers have been attempting to force Willis to testify as they investigate her office finances, hiring practices, and relationship she had with Nathan Wade, the top prosecutor on the election indictment against Donald Trump and his allies, President Donald Trump, Willis has cited scheduling concerns as the reasons for not scheduling a date for her testimony, and lawmakers have previously said they're prepared to get more heavy-handed with the legal system if she doesn't. Bruh. Stop the cap. Come on, Bill. Bill, I've been begging Bill to just make this lady show up. Sanctions, something. Subpoena's not going to work because she didn't show up at the last Senate hearing. Come on, man. Why are we in good faith just letting this lady just assume that she's going to show up? The panel can't bring charges itself, but a judge ruled late last year that they do have the power to issue subpoenas and compel testimony. They can sanction her, from what I understand as well. I'm not a lawyer. Take that for what it is. Willis is being represented by former Georgia Governor Roy Barnes, who has contended the Senate committee does not have the absolute power to subpoena her, which they do. In August of 2021, Willis handed up a historic series of indictments against President Trump, accusing him and 17 of his GOP allies, including former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, of engaging in a criminal conspiracy to overturn Georgia's 2020 election results. That election saw former President Joe Biden defeat President Trump in Georgia by less than 17,000 votes. Those people were sitting on their couch on election day. Trump could have won Georgia. On his way to the White House, Biden became the first Democrat since Bill Clinton in 1992 to carry Georgia or any other deep Southern state. But a since acknowledged romantic relationship between Willis and Nathan Wade threw the case into an entirely new political and judicial spectrum. And now that Trump has become the 47th president, Willis, who was reelected in her own right on election day, and her prosecution was faced with even more uncertainty. So what do y'all think about this? What's going to happen moving forward? I got to know what y'all think about Pete taking this himself. He said, okay, nobody volunteers. I got this election interference case. We're going to keep track of it here, and I'll keep y'all up to date on what's going on. Let me know what you think in the comments and in the chat.